I think the joy of learning is how I would describe it. Um, 18-year-old Asrif wouldn't say that. The pain of learning is what I would say back then. But the joy of learning is it took me a while to discover that. So my friends who did well in college probably had discovered that earlier. Took me to discover at the tender age of 32.
Okay.
I'm still glad that God had still allowed me to have that realization on the joy of learning and how it
Mm.
benefits me in life.
ولو أن أهل القرى آمنوا واتقوا لفتحنا عليهم بركات من السماء والأرض.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Barakah Effect podcast, the podcast where we discuss how to make the best out of your productivity, career, parenting, family, religion, and life, and how we can achieve extraordinary success in dunya and akhirah. Today's guest is someone who lives by the mantra of lifelong learner. Please join me in welcoming Asrif Yusoff. Ahlan, Asrif.
Assalamualaikum, Faisal, Ami. Thank you for having me.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, pleasure.
So, just for the benefit of our listeners out there, I'll just do a quick brief on you, Asrif, on your biography. He's going to
Mm,
expose you for a little bit, yeah?
sure.
So, for the information of our brothers and sisters out there, Brother Asrif has over 16 years of experience in the oil and gas industry. And he, in addition to his degree in engineering, he holds two master's degrees, a master's in social innovation and an MBA, both of which he attained while he was working full time and raising a family. That's gonna steer into our discussion today, inshallah. So, and also, in addition to that, outside of his professional experience, his niche expertise is in helping people to pursue part time studies while they are working full time. So,
Mm,
Asrif also has a YouTube and a podcast channel called Staying the Course. He's also featured in TEDx on the topic of the power of lifelong learning. MashaAllah.
yeah.
So, let's congratulate him as well because he recently published his very first book titled Staying the Course Navigating the Challenges of Part Time Study. Betul I got that title correct, Asrif?
Alhamdulillah. Yes, you got it right.
Okay. So that's leads into the topic of our discussion this week. Studying while working and parenting. How to stay the course. How to stick the landing.
Mm.
Okay. So Alhamdulillah. So yeah, actually just a bit of info, Brother Asif. Actually, I don't think I mentioned this before. Tapi
Mm.
your wife and my wife were friends in university. Did you know that?
Yeah, yeah, betul, betul.
In
Yeah,
Sydney University.
that's right, that's right. Once
MashaAllah.
upon a time, yeah, back in the early 2000s, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, Alhamdulillah, Faisal, our better halves were friends back then, and we are friends now lah.
Yeah, Masya Allah. So the story has come full circle, Masya Allah.
Itulah dia. Rezeki
Uh,
Tuhan temukan jodoh myself and Faisal, and now I get to be friends with Ami as well.
yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And we
And
stay the same. My parents, his brother Asri is staying in the same area where my parents are staying, and I usually frequent that area. Small
Ah,
world, eh?
same
uh,
karya.
Same career indeed.
same
Yeah.
karya, same surau, That's in
Same
Bukit
That's
surah.
right.
Bukit Jelutong, Shah Alam, kan?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
That's right.
Masya Allah. Okay, so maybe we can get into it, inshallah, the topic of how to studying while working and parenting.
Let's do it.
All right. So first things first, Asif, tell us a bit about yourself. How did you start? Have you always been this lifelong learner? Is it something that you had this innate hunger to learn, or is it something like a late bloomer kind of thing throughout as the course of the years of your life? Baru you're like, oh, okay, this is something I discovered.
Mm. Um, Thank you again, Faisal, Ami, for having me. The truth is, I struggled in college when I was doing my undergraduate studies. Um, I did I did engineering purely because that's how I can go and study overseas. That's what the
That was the
scholarship.
means to get a scholarship overseas, at the time.
Yeah, that's that's
Okay,
that's what the scholarship offer letter says.
right.
So I was initially sent to study computer engineering. So I went to the US. did my first year of basic engineering and hard sciences. Did very, very badly. So in the second year of uh, my studies, I requested to change my major from computer engineering to industrial engineering. Now, industrial engineering was also called imaginary engineering, in my college because it's one of the easier ones to pass.
The easier
Also,
engineering courses, huh?
that was the urban legend lah. I learned later that no engineering course
It's
was
easy.
easy, right?
Okay.
So I continued to struggle for the next 3 years. Um,
So this was
I
in
made
US, huh? Was it?
I was in the US. I went
Right.
to Northwestern University in Chicago. Um, so I made frequent visits to the dean's office every other semester because I was always on probation. So what happens is that if your GPA is below 2.5, you go into probation. You get two probations in a row, you get kicked out. So what I did was that I got into probation, I get out of probation in the next semester, then I got into probation again. Unfortunately, in my graduating semester, I got out of probation. So
Uh,
I think
life
that's
on the
something
edge,
that
huh?
I'm
Living on the
not
edge, huh?
living on the edge. I live dangerously. So not my proudest moment. Um, but I struggled because um it wasn't a topic that I was fully passionate in. Again, I was
Mm,
18, 19 was passion anyway, right?
mm.
So I don't make any excuses. It was all down to me. I slacked off and I did graduate. I did finish my study. But I didn't do so well. I finished with a GPA of 2.7. So on the day of my graduation, um, I made a vow to myself, Faisal and Ami. I said, I'll never touch a textbook again. I'll never step into a classroom again. You will never see me in the compound of any university campus ever again because college was a harrowing experience lah. Yeah,
So to you, like graduate, that's it. No more books. Like this is like
no more books,
finally.
man. Yes,
Okay.
I'm so ready for the job market, right?
Uh,
So that was me on June 16th, 2006. Few months later, I reported for duty. I came back to KL and began working. And 5 years after working, I felt sort of stuck in the routine or the monotony of 9 to 5 working life.
mm.
And I was still I was still single at the time. I wasn't married yet. So I felt like, I think I need to spice my life up a bit. So I thought, what better way of challenging myself than facing my biggest fear, which is going back to school lah. So that was the point when I decided to apply for a master's program. My parents were in shock. They are still in shock today. Uh,
Ada.
and
Bro, I just still want to
uh,
pick up something little there. So
right.
I don't know how did you get from like vow to never touch a textbook to like apply
Mm.
for a master's program? I mean that went to 0 to 10 kind of
Yeah,
kind of quick, right?
because I was purely following the motion when I was in my first 5 years of working. I
Okay.
was fresh out of college, went into working. I didn't really have like a long-term goal or like vision to be corporate leader, CEO. I didn't have that at that time, right? So I
Mm.
was just purely going to work, getting my job done, coming back home. I didn't know the meaning of all that, right? I didn't have a higher purpose, in other words, right? I was
Okay.
just purely hosting and following the motion of whatever job's given to me. I try to get it done, do my best, and then go home, right?
Mm.
But over time, as you go through the routine of 9 to 5 every day, you start to, again, like I said, get stuck in the monotony of it. So you want to break that monotony. I felt like challenging myself. So I
Wow.
don't know what happened. Just woke up one day and felt like macam can't go on like this. Like I gotta try something new, right?
Ah.
So I can't do skydiving. I can't do bungee jumping. I don't have the guts to do that. So I go back to school lah, right?
Wow. Yeah, that's the thing, bro. That's what crossed my mind. Because when
Ah,
break from the monotony, people usually do
ah.
some sports thing or what kind. But you're like,
Nah, nah,
dude, masters. Whoa, what?
nah, yeah. So I had
Okay.
my midlife crisis a bit earlier lah, at
Ah,
about
okay. So that's what it was.
32, right? So I was 32 at the time. So I applied for a master's, for several master's program. My first year did not get into any program because my GPA was so low, and my job,
Oh,
my
okay.
working experience wasn't enough to allow me into any program. So I opted for an MBA because I felt that's the closest to what I was doing at work, right?
Hmm.
Didn't get into any program in the first year. I got into a place in the second year. I didn't get any funding for the second year, so I didn't go.
Hmm.
It wasn't until the third year that I got into a place with funding. Then only I can afford to go lah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So 2000, 2015, I began my MBA for 2 years. Um, wasn't easy. Um, I sort of got more than what I can chew. And I was also newly married at the time. And in my second year of my MBA, we were blessed with our firstborn.
Oh,
So
so
from trying to break the monotony of life, I now
too much.
have a wife, a child, and an MBA to complete, right?
Okay.
So not advisable. Don't follow my route into this thing, but I enjoyed the experience. Being an adult
Uh,
learner, pursuing a master's program, and doing it part time because I can understand what the faculty lecturers were talking about in the classroom, right?
you could
So corporate
relate the
finance
themes.
was
Mm.
that
You could relate the themes that were being
I
taught
could
in the
relate.
classes.
I could easily relate to what was being discussed in the classroom. I can have more meaningful conversations with the faculty members. I can have meaningful conversations with my classmates who came from around the world from various industries. I began to see how our problems were similar, our challenges were similar, regardless of which industry we were from. I had classmates from the public sector, hospitality, logistics, and so forth. So
Mm.
it was a very enriching experience as opposed to how it was for me when I was in college for my undergraduate study. So studying again, going back to school, although I was so afraid when I was beginning my
Mm.
program, we can talk about the fear of going back to school later. Um, I was proven wrong because again, you go with a bit more maturity, you go with a bit more experience, and things made more sense. And the beauty of it is whatever I learn on Sunday, I was able to apply on Monday when I go back to the office.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's nice.
right. So 2 years went by. Life was crazy, very busy. But when I completed the program, I felt empty because suddenly I have some time. I didn't know what to do with the time that I had.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So, like any rational person, I applied to another program, and Alhamdulillah, I got into another a master's program, which is on social innovation, which looked into wicked problems in around the world on society, environment, and so
What?
forth.
Wicked problems? What did you use?
Wicked problems. Wicked problems are problems that are um, systemic, very, very hard
Oh,
to address, and
okay.
has many interdependencies based
Uh,
on government on policies, societal norms,
mm,
long held cultural practices that's hard to break in. So wicked problems are issues that social innovation were trying to address. So that was again my second master. So I was again back in the groove, studying part time. I felt energized again because now I know what to do with my time. So that's how I got into this whole thing. And yeah, I completed that, felt empty again. Then I applied for a doctorate. Now I'm in the middle of a doctorate. I don't know what I'm doing, brothers. But 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 I what I do know is that at the end of every journey that I've gone through over the past almost 10 years now, it felt good. It felt good. I felt
Mm.
satisfied. I felt like I've overcome the challenges of acquiring knowledge, and also building my uh, capacity as a person, growth. I can feel and hopefully I can impart that on others. So that's
Mm.
why I feel it's enriching. That's why I got hooked onto it, and that's got me to where I am today, where I am working, studying, and of course, most importantly, taking care of my family.
Oh, nice.
So,
Yeah.
we're hearing upon this, right? Like, no, the first thing that came to my mind, hearing this amazing story of yours, it's like I think you're someone who's persevere to find what are your passions are. Maybe you don't find it, maybe you're undecided when you're a teen, right? But you
Yeah.
trust your instinct, and then you
Mm,
follow your heart, and you have a game
mm,
plan,
mm,
and you have discipline in executing that. Like you
mm,
mentioned that you want to go overseas. The
mm.
ways to do that: get an engineering degree. You want to get graduated. I, computer science doesn't work for me. Yeah? Okay, what
Yeah.
next? Industrial
Yeah.
engineering might work. And then you got a job.
Yeah.
Perfect,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah. And I said,
Yeah.
maybe boredom kicks in. So I'm not passionate for this. Then
Mm,
something comes in. I got you keep on discovering. Okay, masters maybe masters might be the something to open up back
mm,
my
mm,
the excitement in life. And then you
mm.
find it, and once you found that passion of yours, you just keep on moving forward. Yeah, and I think
Mm.
that's I think a very commendable character of you. That I think worth to be highlighted to the audience. Yeah,
That's
it's
a,
okay. It's
yeah,
undecided. Yeah.
that's a really good observation because like some people when they feel a stagnation ke apa kan, like I mean at the end of the day, right, if you really take a step back, you kind of already had a pretty stable job, right? I mean,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah,
Yes.
right? That's it, right? I mean,
Alhamdulillah.
why make your life difficult? You know what I mean? But like Amri said, yeah, that's a very good observation actually. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
want to break the monotony. I want to try something, and then you actually like go the mile and like do something crazy, which is enroll for a master's program.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So thank you, Amir. Very nice of you to say that. Nobody has ever put it that way for to me. But I always tell people that I shamelessly stole this from a book. You need two things to succeed in life. Number one, empathy, and number two, curiosity. Empathy allows
That's
you
good.
to build meaningful relationship with others, and curiosity allows you to be better at what you do, right? What I've learned from navigating my way through studying and working and building a family and so forth is the value of curiosity.
Mm.
And it might have already been in each one of us as individuals, but noticing it might not be natural to everyone.
Mm.
Curiosity might already be there within us, but unearthing it, surfacing it, requires some form of triggers that can really eke it out from within. So for me, because maybe I was too un, too undecided at first, one thing led to another in terms of how my curiosity from one thing led me to another thing and led to the actions and the decision that I've made over my life, right? So so I believe what I do believe today is that when it comes to curiosity, it is a trait that's probably biologically or within our DNA already, but realizing it, having the self-awareness of which part of us gets the best out of that curiosity requires some form of discovery. And for
Mm.
me, the discovery required me to fail first in college and then go through that 5 years of working and then suddenly feels like, you know what, I want to challenge myself. So that was a starting point. I always tell people when you want to try something, the first step is the most important one. Because had I not
Mm.
go out there and respond to my curiosity of wanting to challenge myself, look into the types of programs that are out there, look into the duration, the format, the content, and also the offerings of the different programs out there, I wouldn't be led to applying, going through the process, getting into a program, completing the program, going through the exam, and so forth. So the long journey begins with the first step, which is why I always tell my friends at the office or my friends outside, it's all about the first step. Uh, Take the first step because you'll never know where it will take you lah. So in my case, taking the first step of trying to challenge myself, going back to school and so forth, has brought me here today, and never in a million years had I thought that I'll be pursuing a doctorate as I am today. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So I think first step is a really good point. But also I think another takeaway that from what you're sharing here is it's about the process, it's about the journey as well. So I think like where it's from you, it's that discovery of those constant battles, those failures, and then those 5 years of working. But
Mm.
it's not, if you shortcut the whole thing, you will not feel the sweetness of that MBA
Ah,
when you land that. Yeah. So actually all of that culminates in that. So it's not about like, oh, those 5 years are a waste. Tak, actually. So I think this is the appreciation of the journey though, yang kadang-kadang people don't see that aspect, you know?
you're right. Because um if I mean there are many ways of acquiring knowledge, right?
Mm.
Formally or informally. And the big idea of lifelong learning is just feeding into the curiosity that you have. That's all.
Yeah.
When the whole world went into lockdown, we we all learned how to cook. At least I did. I'm still a bad cook today,
Outdoor
but
gardening.
how do gardening or
Yeah, those
painting
are the
or
two top two
carpentry and
skills. Yeah.
right, all of that, right?
But some of us did podcasting. So
Podcasting, yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
so for me, I didn't do
Uh,
the first two. I just did number three only.
to reach out, right? Because you felt like I can do it from home. I don't really need to
Yeah, there you go.
be there physically, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
But what I'm saying is that why I'm so big on lifelong learning, because it leads you to the possibilities that you might have never thought of. I went through it
Nice. Yeah.
and I just felt that people out there have also their own respective lifelong learning journeys. It's just a matter of figuring it for the first time, right?
Mm.
And like you have rightfully said, Faisal, the journey makes it sweeter. Had I done well in college, back then in 2002, 2006,
Mm.
my biggest challenge might not be going back to school. So I might not be doing all these masters
Mm.
and doctorate. I might just go
Right.
bungee jumping, just go like one and regret it, right? So
Okay.
so and I just thank God for all of this. You
Yeah.
know, it's the arrangement and the takdir of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that we gain value from. And again, it was not immediately obvious to me when I began the journey. But now I am forever grateful to Allah for showing me the way.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like the point
So
here.
I just made, I mean, a slight comment about that. So you mentioned something really important. So we already have curiosity within us. It's all about getting these triggers to eke it out. But there's
Correct.
also another side of it because I think by fitrah, children by nature, children are born with that innate curiosity. They're always going to ask questions. And then, but as time goes by, that environment sometimes doesn't have that conducive, inviting, welcoming for that curiosity to flourish. So you might be asking questions you're like, oh, don't ask so many questions, or just keep quiet and just follow, just follow. So eventually they get conditioned into thinking, if I ask too many questions, it's gonna make my life difficult. It's gonna make me look stupid. And then after time, so sometimes that gets suppressed over the years. So I
Mm.
think what the takeaway from this is that the way we raise our children and even our subordinates in our working environments, we need to create that atmosphere to welcome curiosity, to celebrate that. What do you think about it?
200%. 200%. That's why we were once upon a time
Mm.
those kids who couldn't stop talking and asking about everything. We were once that. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm so convinced that it's within us. But like you said, we have been conditioned over time, maybe in the schooling system or at work and so forth,
Mm.
to be afraid of being wrong.
Yeah, afraid of
right?
being wrong. I like that. Yeah,
Afraid
yeah.
of being wrong, right? So I think what attracts me to the campus environment, what attracts me to higher education as well, is the freedom of being wrong. The psychological safety,
I
the
like. Okay.
psychological safety that I had going into the classroom was something that I truly valued.
Mm,
Um, and again, my masters are not in theoretical physics or math or things that are quantitative. It's mostly on qualitative subjects. So there's a lot of healthy debate, constructive arguments,
mm,
very enriching discussions that take place within the classroom. And I love
mm,
that so much. People are so strong on their opinions, but they are so welcoming in welcoming in allowing the thoughts of others without shooting it down, which is why
mm,
I gravitate so much to the world of higher education. That's why I think I enjoy that environment a lot. And maybe that's also why I get hooked to it, going to wanting to go back into that environment and getting myself being proven wrong time and time again. I always come to my supervisor, my current doctorate supervisor, very, very confident with my beautiful drafts, only for him to come return it back to me full of red marks, full of,
tear it apart, huh?
Beautiful
corrections.
Picasso paintings.
Right. I think
Deconstruct the whole thing, huh?
like a like a big ballpoint pen would have run out of ink just from my 3 page of drafts, right?
Mm,
But that's the joy of it.
right.
Being proven wrong and being shown how little I know is very humbling.
Mm,
And that is a mindset that I bring to work. That's a mindset that I bring in raising my family. And that's why I value it so much. Yeah, Faisal. I mean, you wanted to say something earlier.
I was thinking, yeah, just on the tail off on the curiosity point, yeah, because sometimes we always relate being curious to people of younger age, but actually no, like adults, we can also be curious, like what Brother Asif here just mentioned, right? So it's like
mm,
being a sponge, always ready to absorb
yeah.
water or in the case knowledge, right?
Mm,
But as you grow older, like Brother Faisal mentioned, your people, the environment tends to direct your curiosity to a particular uh, focus. Like for instance, if you're an engineer and then you see like sports, like maybe gymnastics. Oh, this is completely. I don't need this for my work. Yeah, but no, I think being someone who's curious is always ready to absorb information and
Yes.
appreciate those information. You might not use it. Yeah, but just have an appreciation and then and the experience,
mm,
because you might never know. Like the what Brother Asrif here just proven, he hates learning. Who
Yeah.
knows? 5 years later, say, oh, I think I'm going to try learning. So always have that growth mindset, right? Like be ready to open up
growth
Exactly.
new
mindset.
doors. Like don't close doors. You might not
Yeah.
There's
be ready to open it now. You might never know. Maybe 10 years down the road. Yeah.
a very, very important point. A fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, right? Very, very famous book by Carol Dweck.
Mm,
Mindset. Very, very simple concept. A fixed mindset gives you limitations, boundaries, and also a ceiling in terms of how much you can grow as a person, right? A
mm,
growth mindset, just as the name suggests, um, takes that ceiling off of your head and tells you that there are endless possibilities in terms of how you can present yourself as a person, how
mm,
much knowledge you can acquire as a person, and how many new things you can try out. But that mindset shift is not easy, it's not
mm.
inherent.
Yeah.
It is down to us as parents to nurture it in our
Mm,
in our family setup, in our household. It's
mm,
down to us as managers at the workplace to enable it at the workplace. Start small within our own respective teams. So I'm a big believer in that. Ame, thank you for pointing that out. I truly believe in a growth mindset. The challenge is that it's not inherent. Sometimes it's down to us to just tell others or show others the way or open the doors for others to really discover themselves.
yeah. I love the point on curiosity as well. I'm trying to recall this correctly. Yeah, I'm actually convinced that curiosity like this is like this superpower at the workplace. So
Mm,
uh even in conversations, right? So I remember there's this video by Simon Sinek. I think everyone knows Simon Sinek, kan?
Yeah.
So like he was in this boardroom and the people are giving like these very complex terms, and then everyone was looking as if they understand. But Simon Sinek was like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. So he starts. I have a stupid question. Do you mind? He said, no, 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 please. So he's asking that question, and then when he asked that so-called stupid question, then everybody's like, hey, yeah. And then suddenly that triggered the whole thing. So apparently
Right.
nobody understood, but it's just that
Mhm.
he had the courage to step up to be the stupid guy, to ask the stupid
Right.
questions, and then because of that, he educated everybody in the room. And just that's something that I think we should inculcate more in the environments that we're in.
Yeah.
There's a hadith by Rasulullah that
Mhm.
Jibril asked Rasulullah what is Islam, and then Rasulullah explained, and then what is Iman, and Rasulullah explained, and then Jibril left, right? So then the Prophet said that is Jibril. He came to teach you your religion, but actually the one who doing the explanation was who?
Rasulullah.
Was
Rasulullah
Rasulullah.
SAW. Mm.
But because Jibril was the one asking the question, and that
Mm.
triggering that question
Triggering. Yeah.
resulted in Rasulullah providing that explanation, so the
Mm.
Rasulullah attribute Jibril to the one teaching you that knowledge. So I thought, wow, this
MashaAllah.
is cool, man. This is so
It is.
inspiring
It
for
is.
us.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like
One
you
of
don't have
the
to be the teacher, but if you trigger the correct question, the correct environment, it's as good as teaching, right?
exactly, exactly. And it doesn't have to be in universities necessarily. Like Faisal said, it can be in the
Mm,
workplace and so forth. One question that I get a lot,
mm,
sometimes I give talks at universities, what do employers look for in job seekers? What do employers look for in employees? What do organizations look for in new hires?
yeah.
One of the most common answers that we hear is critical thinking. But apa benda critical thinking? What is
Mm.
critical thinking, right?
Yeah.
So I usually just break it down very simply to university students who already have many things on their mind, that it is purely the ability to see every situations across many angles. So how do you put that to practice?
Mm,
Just go back to the who, why, when, what, and how. Nothing new.
mm,
We know this already, but at its most simplest form, I think simplicity pula. Critical thinking.
Thinking.
Critical thinking is about being able to ask those questions when you are being presented with situations like that. Which is why I think when they go for interviews, when job seekers go for interviews, and they are given scenarios, case studies to address, problem solving for them to address, as long you are, because they always say that the interviewer is trying to see if people are able to think well. How
mm,
convinced are we that the interviewer themselves know what they're doing, right?
mm,
Mm.
mm,
But what I'm telling them is that the way that you can really break it down is to simplify it to those five questions and present it across in that manner, so that at least you have covered all the bases. So that's how I carry the message of critical thinking. There are many definitions out there. You ask 10 people, you get 10 different definitions. But I just feel that critical thinking is about curiosity, it's about asking the right questions. And that doesn't come natural. That comes with wisdom, which is what people need to deal over time from observing others, experimenting with it, failing themselves. So that's how we learn as well. That's my thought. This curiosity or critical thinking, going back to your story on Simon Sinek, I thought it's interrelated there.
nice. Oh, by the way, just some shameless promotion. We
Yeah.
actually did have to our listeners and also to you. We actually did have two episodes on the topic of nurturing a growth mindset, specifically about this,
Ah,
because it's a topic that really fascinates us, and we talk about how we can nurture. And yeah, we made references to Carol Dweck's book, so amazing.
yeah. That's at least 2 hours of that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Ah.
Probably three.
we can go we can go on and on actually. But
Yeah.
we've covered
Okay.
that, so that's good.
Yeah, nice, nice, nice. Okay, so speaking about one of the questions about the critical thinking, right? So now we want to ask you your why on the purpose. So well, I'm just curious, so now you've already studied part-time and you've known how heavy it was. What motivates you to continue doing it? So as you mentioned as well, you're currently pursuing your PhD, right?
Right.
Now, on paper, right, you've already got a full-time job. You have a family to take care of. You've got your hands
Mm,
full.
yeah.
Why subject yourself to so much torture? And then you published a book recently, right? That's a lot of.
Mm,
That's kind of a mouthful, Sheikh. So
yeah. Yeah.
why? Why do this?
I think the short answer is fulfillment,
Mm,
Faisal and Ame. And in describing that, I can only point back to the two finishing lines that I've completed in the first two masters that I've done before. Um, and fulfillment in the way that I have proven myself to myself. I didn't have to, prove it to anyone else. It wasn't a requirement for me to progress at work or anything. It was just
mm,
me challenging myself. That was the beginning of it. Well, actually, the beginning of it was boredom of work.
mm,
And then I was trying to break that boredom by challenging myself, right?
mm,
But the act of wanting to challenge myself, the fulfillment of proving what I can do to myself, is one thing that keeps me going. But on top of that, I think I've also seen the value of ilmu, value of knowledge,
mm,
not only in knowing about stuff. Because honestly, the more I know, the more I don't know. That's the
mm,
humbling part of doing whatever masters or doctorate programs that I'm doing. Um, when I look into the literature review, when I look into the existing research on the same topic that I'm doing, um, I am always reminded of how much information there are out there. Um, because every research area is a small slither of um, focus in the entirety of the body of knowledge in a particular
mm.
topic,
It's like a
right?
thread. So when you unweave that thread, then it just opens up another door.
Exactly. And that's already so very small. When you look
Ah,
into the literature review of all the research areas that narrows down to a particular topic that you are doing, you see how small your niche actually is. Then you look
right.
into the existing research over the past 100, years, even actually,
Mm,
of other scholars or researchers who have gone into the same topic, then you know how small you actually are. You're just a speck in the universe when it comes to this particular topic. So it's just like traveling. You travel to a new country, look into a new language, new food, new environment, new scenarios and new situations in a new country, and you feel so small, right? You're taking outside of your comfort zone. So that is the second part that keeps me going. So fulfillment is the second one. But
mm,
second one, I think the joy of learning is how I would describe it. Um, 18-year-old Asrif wouldn't say that. The pain of learning is what I would say back then. But the joy of learning is it took me a while to discover that. So my friends who did well in college probably had discovered that earlier. Took me to discover it at the tender age of 32. And
okay.
I'm still glad that God had still allowed me to have that realization on the joy of learning and how it
Mm,
benefits me in life. So
mm,
talking about the benefits of it in life, I've shared earlier of how the actual lessons that I acquire in the classroom, I get to apply back in the workplace. But beyond that, the unseen value of it, Faisal and Amir, because I get into so many debates and constructive conversations in the classroom, it has allowed me to form my thoughts better, present my ideas hopefully in a clearer manner, and
mm.
have some form of confidence to go out there and share my thoughts and ideas without being backed down by the fear of being wrong, right?
Ah,
That is very situational. That is highly situational to which room you are in. That's
right.
highly situational to which region, which culture, which traditions you are in, right?
Mm,
But as a person, as an individual, in the various situations that I'm in, facing customers, facing stakeholders, facing friends, facing people who I'm not comfortable with,
mm,
um, I felt that I'm a bit more confident today to present myself, and to say that I don't know about some things. and be perfectly fine with that. Again, it goes back to
Mm.
critical thinking. It goes back to a growth mindset. It's so closely linked. So
Mm.
that's a long answer, but the short answer is fulfillment, the joy of learning, and number three, the tangible and the seen and unseen benefits of how it has allowed me to grow as a person, position my ideas, and put it out there in public.
I like the way you talk about the confidence, right? For instance, like one thing that I can pick up from this, when you're overwhelmed with information in a discussion, you're more calm. You're easy to partition, to clusters, categorize all those information, and then you're aware of your audience wavelength. So when you want to communicate back to them, you make sure you're speaking something of a language of a lingo that they can digest as well.
You're so right, Ami, because in our respective capacities, we are playing different roles as leaders, right? Some of the leaders that I have personally worked for or observed at the workplace that I really admire are leaders who are always calm and composed and always clear in presenting their ideas. So I always wondered, how do these people do it? And um, that's what I'm trying to emulate now. That's the vibe that I'm trying to emanate and give to my own team. Because as a leader, we are the captain of the ships, and you don't want to rock the boat when something befalls you. You don't want to give any sense of panic or uncertainty and so forth. You are so it has helped me a lot at work. It's hard for me to describe it. Is it biological? Is it emotional? I don't have the right word for it. But being in the learning environment while I'm also working, we are learning at work every day after all, right? But these two worlds, they complement each other so well, which is why again I'm such a big advocate of pursuing learning while working, especially if the subject that you are learning is also the subject that you're working on. It can complement each other very well.
Like a more
Mm.
effective, you become a more effective communicator, right? That's right.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, that's my hope lah.
Mm.
And also the point that because you when you're into lifelong learning, right, and you to build on that curiosity point, right? So I do believe that curiosity comes with like a lot of patience because you need to really take time to listen to people and do not make preconceived ideas of people's ideas. Like take the time to really digest what they're trying to
Right.
convey, right? It brings you like it takes your patience to a different level. I mean, in the
Yeah.
character, I mean, your character itself matured, improved
Mm.
by with all your learning experience, right?
You've
Mashallah.
you've said the word there, maturity. She's impossible to measure. How do you measure that, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
But I think another point there, what keeps me going, right? Back to Faisal's question earlier, the other benefit that I gain from it is how it has shaped the way I think. Very hard for
Mm.
me to describe, but I think it has helped me the way I think. I'm gonna give you some examples of the people who I've spoken to on my podcast.
Mm.
So I've heard PhD students who told me that because they were trained to do research for their respective study areas, the way that they analyze problem solving or difficult situations at the workplace has immensely improved because the lens with which they see each problem suddenly becomes wider, and the perspectives that they bring into the conversations are also wider. So that
Mm.
comes in the way that they do analysis that leads to problem solving beyond their respective research areas, so shaping the way they think. And I've also heard my friends who have done their masters in business administration, because the subject of MBA cuts across the key quantitative and qualitative subjects that cuts across running a business, running operations. It has helped them to become more wholesome in their respective functions. My friends who are engineers have better commercial sense, for example, in trying to negotiate for better rates of procurement that they do when they are in uh, doing work tasks, for example, right? My friends who are in communications, for example, are now able to communicate better with friends who are in finance because in the corporate finance course, they are now able to read financial statements better, interpret what the words mean, and the understand the stories behind the numbers. So that's not the title of a subject that you take in an MBA course.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
a good point.
value that you gain out of it. The subject is still
Mm,
corporate finance, very, very boring and dry
mm,
subject. But because it is taught in that at the managerial level, not going into forensic accounting or anything, it is teaching you enough to make informed decisions or have meaningful conversations with people who are from that field. So it has helped me to shape the way I think. Nowhere near being as sharp as I want to be, but I know day after day it's something I'm consistently trying to improve on.
nice. Okay, I actually want to ask a question on behalf of our listeners out there. So, what motivates them? So, your big, so if I, my major takeaways from what you shared is the fulfillment aspect and also the growth and
Mm,
how you can apply it in your life. So, for the
mm,
listeners' side here, what we want to find out is like, what are typical reasons that they should continue their studies? But before that,
mm, mm,
I'm just gonna take a step back based on what you said as well. So you talk about things like it shaped the way you were thinking, being
mm,
able to present your ideas better, being having this network of people and having that interesting realization that wow, there are common problems that cut across many different industries. I like
mm,
the point that you mentioned that you have this safe space to fail and to disagree with each other without having tangible consequences. That's something that people don't see that often because at the workplace disagreements
mm.
usually means bad performance rating or some scary stuff,
Consequences.
consequences, right? But here in the academic environment, it's like, yeah, let's celebrate differences, you know? So I think, yeah, those kind of things, you know, the confidence to present yourself, to present ideas better, shaping the way you think. Did you know that these benefits will come when you enrolled yourself? Because
Mm,
taking a step back after those 5 years
mm,
of working, right? It was about
mm,
challenging yourself. Did you
mm.
see any of these benefits, or is it like, oh wow, I did not expect these
No,
benefits?
no. When I said challenging myself, it was purely passing exams.
Okay, all right.
Ah, so these are the
Because I'm
benefits.
really huh?
So these are the benefits. Like it just you didn't expect it at all.
None of it were apparent to me before I applied to a program. It was purely to me sitting
Hmm.
in a classroom, going for the exams, passing the exams, you get a scroll of paper. That's all.
Ah, that was
Mm.
taking a master's to
Right?
you at that point of time.
Right? So when you asked me earlier, none
Right.
of my answer went to getting a paper, passing the exam, no. But our friends who are doing their CFA papers or so forth, CIMA papers and so forth, the goal is to pass the exam to then
Right,
qualify.
right, right.
Which
Mm.
brings me to my answer to your question. So I spoke to about 20, no, I spoke to about 50 people did um who did continuing education, lifelong learning in many forms. Some of them did diploma, degree, PhD, and so forth. But the sample that I chose are people who studied while working. Simple,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So when I spoke to them over a course of a year, there were three main points of why people do it. Number one, to
mm.
qualify to apply for a job. So some job requires you to have a bachelor's degree. Some people,
Sure,
circumstances in life,
sure.
um, went through different routes, right? So some people went straight to working after SPM, for example. Some people serve the nation by going into the army and so forth, finish their service, and they want to go back into the working world via corporate. They need the qualification. So that's a very practical reason to why you want to study while working.
Mm,
Um, and then number two, some jobs out there, very limited number of jobs out there. Sorry, not limited. Um, a handful of jobs out there require certain types of papers for you to progress at work,
right.
right? So that's the second reason for them to progress at work. To go into another level, you need certain qualifications and so forth, especially for people of certain specialist professions. The third group is very interesting. These are people who do it because since they were a child, or since they were in school, or since they were in high school, they have vowed to themselves that one day I'm going to have a master's degree. One day, I'm going to have a PhD degree. So this is the third group,
Mhm.
which was small in number, at least from the size that I sampled in that 1 year. But it's out there. There are people who have that dream in life. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. So they pursued it, right? So to qualify for a job, to progress at work, to realize a personal dream, these are some of the reasons of why people pursue part-time study. But I do have to specify also, in my book, the opening line was, when it comes to part-time study, sorry, when it comes to studying, given the choice, most people would pursue to do it full-time, myself included. So that's the
Mm.
opening of my line. The reason we are studying part-time is because we have commitments in life. Not everyone can afford to take time off to go and study full-time, not having a stable earning and dedicate their lives to learning, right? Absolutely, it's purely differential, right?
Mm.
Purely a personal choice, right?
Right.
So the beauty of part-time study is because you are still able to earn while also grow at the same time and hopefully progress to what you want to realize based on the three categories that I've shared earlier. But I also acknowledge that part-time study is not for everyone because some people, because of their preference and because of their inclination of doing one thing at a time, would want to take time off and go to study. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's a matter of personal choice. The data, at least from the cohorts that I've been in the part-time programs that I've been in, at least 1 to 3% dropouts, simply because life happens.
Right.
Family, work, health, business, many
Mm.
reasons.
Right.
And again, that's how part-time programs are designed anyway. They are
Mm.
designed to allow you to take intermissions, to take time off. I took 1 semester off because we welcome our second baby when I was doing my second masters. I don't know
Mm.
why there's a correlation there. One baby, one master. Not really a not really a
Are you
government
taking? Are you
policy.
taking a third master over there?
No,
I
he's taking his,
started.
no, he's taking
It's
his
a
Oh,
top
PhD
track.
now.
PhD,
He's taking
PhD.
his
It's a
PhD
top
now.
track.
So during his Viva, inshallah, third chance
Inshallah.
ada.
Itulah.
Amin.
Doa tu. Doa tu.
Doa,
So,
betul.
going back to my point, what I'm saying is that um it's a personal choice, right?
Right.
But the flexibility of time study is why I advocate it a lot. But ultimately, it's your choice. If it's
Mm.
not for you, don't do it. But if it's for you, do it in your terms, at your own terms,
Mm.
which comes down to choosing the format, choosing the subject, which we can talk about later. Um, that's another area that I covered in my book. You find your purpose of why you want to do it, then
Mm.
you decide which topic, which subject, which institutions, which program, which format, and so forth.
Mm. So you would have going back a few steps back. So you would have fallen under the third category of pursuing the dream. Is that right?
No,
Okay.
because my initial reason was again, I got bored of working,
So you have a
right?
fourth category for
So
for the heck of it.
so yeah, nobody
Can I say
gave
that?
an answer like mine, which I
Ah.
just why I got bored. I want to challenge myself. No, but I think you are correct in a way, Faisal, because um challenging self, personal dream are innately driven. It comes
Mm.
from inside out.
Right.
So I think by that definition, it falls in the same category. So for
Mm.
me, um, challenging myself was it, and I don't know if I was also trying to redeem myself, bro, because
Ah.
because you know because I did
Right.
so badly as an undergraduate, although I passed, was there actually something inside me that wanted to sort of do it all over again
Ah.
and get it right the second
Mm.
time around?
Mm.
Yeah. So that was an unseen part of it that I might not have, it might not have been too obvious for me, but that could be the unseen driver motivation that I had.
That's so interesting you
But
said that. I just heard
yeah,
this in a podcast recently.
yeah,
It's something it goes along these lines. Something like, A students, they kind of have things laid out for them. The path is kind of open. So But what tends to happen is that the C students are the one who
Mm,
go far in life, and there's a developmental reason behind it, because these are
mm,
people who kind of average, so they
mm,
at some point of time in their life they have to do more. They have to make
mm.
a conscious decision to go more, commit
Yeah.
themselves to do more, study more, work more, network
Right,
better with people. And then
right.
because they don't have the silver spoon, they don't have the A's to start off their journey, to
Mm,
jumpstart, so
mm.
they tend to win the race in the long run. I don't know.
Yeah.
When you said this, that kind of that triggered that conversation. What do you think?
Yeah. There's a funny saying like A students work for C students. I don't
Oh
agree with
yeah,
that.
I heard that before. Yeah, I'm trying to break it down into the more developmental
I
side, but
don't agree with that. I do agree that my staff are always smarter than I am. I do agree with that. But it's just another take on what you just said, right, Faisal?
right.
Um, but I think the experience of failing, the experience of failing, um, also makes passing sweeter. So you
Nice.
value,
Mm,
um, because you have overcome the hurdle, right?
yeah.
So when the road to success is harder, the success means more to you, right?
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I think in a way that's the story of the C students, which I still am. For the record, I did not finish my masters with distinctions, both of them. No, I only because distinction is 70 and above. I think I scored probably 63, 65 for each of them.
I see.
And 60 is a passing. So you only have room for 10 points before you get distinctions. And grading is much more stricter at that level lah. So my point is that nobody's gonna ask you what grade you get for your MBA. Nobody. You just say that you have it or you don't have it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I enjoy it so much because it is less rigid than how it was for me during undergraduate.
Mm,
Because I had to do more math back then. I'm not good at that. Because I had those bad grades back then, I didn't enjoy the experience entirely. But the core reason is also because I was doing engineering back then, a subject that I thought I was good at. I learned during the process that I'm nowhere near good at. And because when I'm doing my programs in social innovation, my MBA and my current research in leadership development, because I'm so into the subject as a vocation, as a topic, it drives me to keep on coming into the classroom.
nice.
The way I see that the point, first of all, like the taste of passing is sweeter if you have failures in the past, right? Like
Mm.
the Malay saying is like, what's the if you need rainy days for you to appreciate sunny days, right?
Ah.
Ah, kita
Eh,
perlukan
uh,
yang pahit untuk menikmati yang manis, kan? Something
Right,
like
uh,
that
right.
lah, kan?
on your point just now when you try to find the reasons for someone to do life do a
Yeah.
pursue learning, right?
Mm.
It is something like one part of your sample goes they focus more on material gain when they do
Mm.
the lifelong learning, and the other one is more on emotional gain, like
Ah,
whether it's spiritual whatever, but then it's a emotional gain,
Self-fulfillment,
right?
kan?
Self fulfillment,
Yeah.
right?
good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, yeah.
Because
Nice.
from I have this when in my first employment back then, the HR actually uh, I was the company I worked with was quite famous, but the turnover rate was really high. Was really high. They pay well, but the turnover rate is really high. The HR told us on the first day that if you're working because of the glamour, because of the pay, probably you're gonna last 5 years or less. But
Mm.
if you're really passionate about this, usually these kind of people they stay longer. And
Mm.
true enough,
Mm,
a lot of
Mm.
the people that sick because of the pay and all this, they usually left the company after 3 years to 5 years. Yeah, and whoever like
Mm.
who's really passionate about the subject, usually they stay longer, 10 years and above.
nice.
Driver is stronger. That's just it.
Yeah.
The
That's
higher
right. Yeah,
purpose
yeah.
is there. You
Yeah.
wake up every morning going to work for the higher purpose, which I didn't have when I got bored with work, which I do hopefully have now, because I know my work impacts the lives of people who go through our program. Faisal, one of them.
Yeah.
Um, that keeps me up. Sorry, that gets me up in the morning and go to work.
Nice. By the way, brother, I can relate to you in one way. So you said you got a GPA of 2.7.
Yeah.
I'm not that far off. I think I got barely like 2.78 or something like that. So yeah, virtual high
Okay, you
five.
make me feel good,
Yay.
bro. Virtual high five.
Virtual high five. So okay, I like the point that you said that I think that's a very important takeaway point for myself and listeners out there. It's only when you actually start pursuing it, when you actually start putting your feet into it, then you start to see the benefits behind it. If you look at it from an external point of view, it will seem like, oh, you're subjecting yourself to exams. It's kind of like going through the hardship, going through the motions again. Why would I ever want to do that again? I already, like you said, I don't want to touch a textbook again. Why am I killing myself? Kan? but
Mm.
but it's only when you actually do it. And I think there's another implication behind it as well. You're seeing it from a different lens now because there's that personal fulfillment and that application perspective while you're working brings a totally different dimension to it. So it's until you actually sink your feet into it, you're like, oh, okay. It's nice in
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. Our idea of school are classes and exams, right?
Right.
The, the, the vast, distinct difference of adult learning, it is not about that. It's about getting immersed in the subject. It's being
Mm,
interactive. It's being
mm.
interactive in the classroom, and you learn from real world case studies. So compared to thermodynamics, I felt like coming into class and learning about marketing makes more sense because
Bro, when you say thermodynamics, I am feeling myself and other listeners who did engineering, they have like PTSD, post-traumatic stress.
yeah,
Thermo is like the nightmare
yeah.
subject of engineering, I think.
I'm saying like I did well in it. No, I didn't do well in it. But you're right. So so dispelling that idea of what learning
Mm.
is very important. And I also stress to people that learning doesn't have to be formal. Doesn't have
Mm.
to involve you registering for a class. Doesn't have to involve you being a part of a syllabus. Doesn't have to
Mm.
be um, you formally registering as a student with an institution. Could be as simple as going to YouTube. Could be as simple as attending weekend classes, evening classes, the lectures that we listen to between Maghrib and Isha at the surau. To me,
Mm.
that is learning. But
Nice.
getting there and sitting in that circle and
To show up,
immersing in the
right?
subject,
To
showing up,
yeah.
showing up, and showing up can manifest in the form of going to looking for those content on YouTube or Coursera or edX or
Okay.
all
Udemy.
the
Yeah.
massive open online courses that are available out there.
Mm.
Uh, to just have a glance at it and see where that takes you. Right. Again, going back to the first step that I was mentioning earlier. So doesn't have to be formal. And I also say that sometimes it comes from practical reason, trying to fix your car, trying to put on a light bulb, trying to fix stuff at home, right? DIY stuff at home. The act of acquiring that knowledge, fixing a problem, moving on with life, um, that requires the mindset shift that we want.
Mm.
And it doesn't translate directly, yeah, Faisal, because and guys, because although I claim to be lifelong learner and all that, when it comes to plumbing, when it comes to electrical work, when it comes to fixing my car, I still leave it to the pros. So it's
Okay.
not something that's directly transferable
Uh,
to everything in life,
that's a good point.
but you know enough where to have that mindset. But it might apply for others.
That's a good point.
Some people might go into that technical stuff of trying to fix a car, learning and going really deep into it. The joy of learning comes from being really immersed and not really feeling it as a burden or a task or something
That's the
Yeah.
key.
yeah.
Maybe like
So
certain courses like you take, like you might not see the tangible increase in
exactly,
knowledge, right? Like,
exactly.
but I'm sure there's some accelerated wisdom that you have definitely captured in those time that you have put in those
Hmm.
masters, MBAs, right? Those wisdoms
Yeah,
you can buy those. It's difficult.
yeah.
It comes from
Mm.
discussion, yeah, all these
Mm,
things.
Yeah.
and another form of informal learning, we are familiar with mentorship.
Oh, that's good.
Coaching, yeah, mentorship is something that we're familiar with. You just
Yeah.
go to an elder or senior in a particular area or an expert in a particular area.
Right.
You go to them for answers.
Mm.
In contrast to that, sounding similar to it is coaching, whereby you engage yourself with a person who's a trained coach who are able to ask you the right questions, leading you to self-awareness and discovery for you to then address the issues at hand.
I want to introduce that Shami is also very related to the subject because Shami also ada some history in education. So he studied
Okay,
food technology. I'm doing his
okay.
biography right here on the spot lah. So I'm probably gonna
Mm,
botch it, tapi tak apa. It's okay. So he did, he did a degree in food technology, and
yeah,
then after a while, then he got married. Then he got an offer to go study Sharia in Madinah, and
Masya
then
Allah. And then,
I think macam mana me when you were in Arab college kan, Arabic college, then you had your first child kan? Was it or was it before you fly?
Yeah, before.
Before. So
Yeah,
imagine,
but yeah,
yeah.
but
So
the challenge was, but the challenge was, leaving my wife and my firstborn child
mm,
alone in my hometown, whereas I was alone in the
yeah.
middle of the
Ah,
desert, so to
ah.
speak, right? So
So you
that's the
went,
challenge,
you were there.
we pardon?
You were there for the whole,
yeah,
completed the program, is it?
yeah. From the
Yeah,
language course to the degree
Masya Allah.
program. So that's a good
Oof.
yes.
solid 5 years. 6 years, me?
Almost 6.5 years lah.
6.5 years.
MashaAllah.
That
Yeah,
is
6.5 years
sacrifice right there.
kurang.
Okay, okay.
But that's not the end. That's not the end of the story
Ah,
yet.
That's not the
no?
end. So as we speak right now, Shahmi is currently pursuing his MBA.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay,
so
okay.
he's a
Yeah,
direct he's a
alhamdulillah.
direct stakeholder of the subject matter we're discussing right here right now.
That's great, Shami. You can share your thoughts on this as well. And
Inshallah.
I love hearing the stories of people with different reasons of brought them into a program. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just hear from Shami. By the way, why did you take an
Yeah,
MBA? So that we can pursue
yeah,
because
because
technically you covered like food tech. Now you got Sharia
mm,
and like MBA. Wow, this is like three different
ah,
islands, man. Why MBA?
ah,
It's
Putting you on the spot,
okay.
huh?
Subhanallah. This is in an impromptu talk lah, but uh for to be brief. Okay, actually, the main reason why I took MBA is because I have discussed about this with my family, and I've got the idea from actually looking at my uncle. Okay, so he's alhamdulillah, he's a CEO of a well-known like a electrical, how do you say this, like an
Power
electrical
generation.
company, yeah, in Sarawak. So he's so he talked to me about MBA once or twice. I'm not really sure, but he told me that how it is quite important for you if you wanna go up that ladder. You wanna be someone, like you wanna improve your worldly life. Then this is one of the ways that you can do it. So looking at my life, and I'm planning to have more children, right? So I do think that you have to have a stable financial, you have to have a stable income. So this is one of the things that drove me to apply for MBA, because I want to, inshallah, in the future, God knows, maybe get more stable job, perhaps. My dad as well, I have never told this to anyone, but my dad, he has his own company, and yeah, perhaps I can work with him one day, and run things for him in the company, and so on.
Amin,
So
Amin.
yeah, that is basically why I signed up for MBA. Yep. People have different reasons, and also there's another supplementary factor lah as to why I joined MBA, because a good friend of mine, who, by the way, he also studied in Medina, and he's also from Miri, Sarawak. But Qadarullah, he only finished up till the linguistics program, the diploma in Arabic language. So when we finally meet each other, back in Malaysia, and I was asking him, what are you up to these days? So he was telling me that I'm currently doing my MBA in UKM, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. So I feel like this peer pressure lah
Kau
also.
pilih
Macam,
lagi bro.
kau ni kenapa kan?
Fear of missing out kan. FOMO dah masuk.
FOMO lah because he's a close friend. Yeah, so and then I was asking, apa best sangat MBA ni? So he started to explain to me. I am
Masya-Allah.
with regards to all these things MBA related, finance, management, all these things I can say zero lah before. Memang for me those skills are memang totally zero lah in my account lah. So when we talk, and then he explained to me the importance of MBA and stuff, and then it is important also. There are things that you learn from the subjects. For example, you have competitive strategic competitive management or something like this. It can help you in a lot of ways, not only in the business that you own, not only in HR department. You can also sort of like apply it in your life. Like you can see how you
Asrif spot
manage
bro.
your time.
Yeah.
You can see how you manage your subordinates if you have in your company, for example, your colleagues, right? All these things. So it got more interesting in my point of view. So and I did istikharah, and finally I just went for it. I said Bismillah, just sign up for it because there was an opening. There was an intake, and it was closing in 2 weeks time. So I grabbed my friend, another friend of mine, who is, by the way, my cousin. He is, by the way, he was also a graduate from the Islamic University of Madinah. So both of us applied at the same time. So I jokingly said to them, we have a group, that only the three of us. Why don't we make like something that is Islam, fiqh related, and at the same time MBA related? What do you guys think? Maybe like a company or something. Yeah. So this is just something that I've never shared with people, but you guys are the first ones to hear this lah. It's not that interesting, but Alhamdulillah, this is where I am now. But I'm really interested. I want to
Inshallah.
learn lah, so to speak.
Yeah,
Mashallah.
So
Thanks
just to
for
tie
sharing.
to Brother Shami's point, is not right?
Yeah.
Maybe Brother you can comment, like, have we, like Shami's perhaps a bit unique cases. He has accountability partners, friends who are on the same goal, same pursuit of knowledge. How is that impacting your lifelong learning from your point of view?
Yeah. First of all, the intent, the reason, and the purpose that drove Shami to went and register was a very practical one, right? So when we go back to the purpose of studying, acquiring knowledge, some people might argue all of the knowledge in the MBA program are all online. You can go out there and acquire it yourself. But the best way of doing it, from my experience at least, that's where structure comes in. That's where curriculum comes in. That's where sequencing comes in. That's where the experiential learning comes in. And that is not fun. It's not enriching when you're doing it alone. It comes to the point of how, not really an accountability partner, but a classmate, cohort. That's why they run it in cohorts, right? So when you do it in cohorts, everyone's in the same boat. Everybody is struggling together. You struggle to understand the concept together. You don't feel alone. And you help each other in trying to understand theories and concepts and ideas, and sort of doing your homework together and so forth. That sense of community, that sense of belonging, is like no other. It's so enjoyable doing it in a group, right?
Right.
I was touching a bit earlier, Shami, on the common denominator of people who go into a particular MBA classroom, coming from various industries. In my classroom, like I said, I had people from logistics, central banking, hospitality. I'm from energy. You would see that the challenges, be it financial, be it people, be it organizational policy, be it organizational behavior, communication, and so forth, are so similar. But you look into the application of what you learn in the classroom to the different industries that are out there, adapting to the different types of challenges that are out there, whether in different regions or in different markets and so forth, is where the enriching part comes in. That's where it makes sense. that's where your thoughts are validated or challenged,
Mm.
and that's how learning becomes fun. I mean, so that's the value of doing it in groups.
Mm.
Accountability partner mostly on homeworks and assignments lah, because you either a
Yes.
procrastinator, you're either a procrastinator or you are a precrastinator, right? You either
Procrastinate.
you either leave you either leave everything to the last minute, or you get agitated at the beginning and you try to sort as much as you can at the beginning, right? So
Nice.
um I do have the procrastination problem, but I've grown to become a precrastinator so that whenever I get a syllabus, the first thing I do is I read through what chapters are within the subject, and I look through what the final projects are. And I look into the breakdown of what constitutes for what that makes up the 100%, which come from the
Mm.
quizzes, which come from the papers, which come from the finals, and so forth, right?
Right.
So that allows me to frame my thinking in terms of how do I strategize for this
Strategize that.
particular course? What tactics do I use? But you can't go wrong with starting early.
Mm.
You can't go wrong with starting early.
I like that
So I
point as well.
always
So identifying the roadmap where you're going, that
yeah,
gives you more confidence to
yes,
see like, okay, where I can, if I
get a
gotta
feel,
sacrifice something, where can
get
I
a feel.
purposely sacrifice everything?
Like
Exactly,
attendance, huh?
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So procrastination is a big issue for people who do part-time or even full-time study for that matter. There's a saying among PhD students because what happens is that when they need to do their writing for a deadline, some other thing might just pop up. That is the time you want to do your laundry. That is suddenly the time you want to do vacuuming. That is the time when suddenly you want to clean up your table and so forth.
I couldn't agree more.
So, kan, right? Shami can agree, right? So there's a
Betul.
saying among
Macam.
PhD students that says that um, I've got a lot of writing to do today. My room has never been cleaner, right? So people, that's how people just procrastinate. But I do encourage precrastinating, even when it comes to papers. I take comfort in writing first and editing later. What do I mean by that? Whenever I want
That's a
to
good one.
attempt on a paper, I just write the first bad draft, right?
Yeah.
Um, there are many holes and missing words there, but at least the flow of thoughts are just there. Some sentences don't make sense, some are phrases, some are just one word. But the comfort of knowing I have something on paper can be quite calming, so that I don't panic as the deadline looms in.
So
That's
it's
good.
progress, not perfection. I think that's the key
You're
here.
right, bro. You're right. And
And
and in postgraduate study, there's no perfection at all. It's all
there you go.
progress.
Yeah, because if you do perfection, you're gonna get those red marks anyway, right?
I will.
On your first draft,
Exactly.
right?
You're never right anyway. So
You're
just
never
do your
right.
best.
Never
Pass
mind.
the paper. I have friends who were doing, I have friends who were A students in college. So
Mm.
when they're doing their masters, they always come to me, I missed 2 points in getting an A, I missed 2 points in getting a 90 and so forth. I said, nobody cares. Nobody
Right,
cares.
right.
Just
Eh,
pass the
Reality
paper.
bites.
Just pass the paper. You get a straight C. You will walk together with the person who get a straight A. Okay, he he or she
Oh, that's a
will
relief.
right. We'll get an extra piece of like a best student paper. But
yeah.
that's fine.
Betul.
You can have that, right? That's
Uh,
me.
Yes, correct, correct. I like that.
Set
You walk.
set your expectations low.
Yeah, I like this
Itulah.
one. I think there's an author who shared this. There's a term called it. It's called they call it SFD. It means lousy first draft, but S means
Yes,
something
yes,
else. You know? Yeah, I
yes,
think you
yes.
heard this before, right?
That's why I was going. I use bad.
Okay. So I think the quote was, and I think because I like to write a lot as well. I have this problem when it comes to writing. So yeah, this mindset helps a lot. So the idea is to like, I think the phrase goes like, I'd rather write 200 words of crap rather than 0 words of perfection.
Mhm.
So I'm like, wow, yeah,
Yeah,
just keep on
yeah,
moving forward.
yeah. You're right. You're right. And when it comes to writing, um, two things I would like to share here. Number
Mm,
one, I always observe that when people begin their journey of masters or PhD, they always have big dreams of trying to solve the world's biggest problem, right? And then reality creeps in. The supervisor comes into the picture with a big red pen. Then you learn that if that big problem were to be addressed, it would have been addressed so long ago already. So you got to be realistic in terms of
That's a good
what
one.
problem that you
What
are trying to
you as a
tackle.
person can actually achieve.
Yeah. So
That's a good
I'm going to
one.
give you an example, right? I spoke earlier about wicked problems. Wicked problems are very systemic in a particular organization or country. Many interdependencies deal with social norms, will deal with deeply rooted cultures or traditions. It's hard for you to address.
Mm.
So I was being very practical with that. So my
Ah.
research was on wakaf as a sustainable model for higher education funding, public higher education funding in Malaysia. So I make the topic very, very specific. From
Mm.
education endowment, I focus down to wakaf so that I am looking into the Islamic perspective. From higher education as a whole, I zoom into public higher education so that I can look into government funded universities only.
So you
And
zoom
I
in.
Mm.
just
Okay.
zoom into just Malaysia,
That's
right?
a good one. Okay.
Which is
Malaysia
why
only.
sometimes when you look into thesis topics, it
Mm.
goes very, very
Very
specific in the
long. Yeah, yeah.
particular period from
Yeah,
its
yeah.
X year to Y year
Yeah.
in a particular village.
In that.
It's only in this kampong.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
True.
just a way for the PhD student to um, rescue their behind and just
But
be on the safer side.
by the way, bro, this is wicked. I spell it WICKER.
WICKED. You
Ah,
can Google it
oh,
after. So
wicked,
wicked
as in
problems. Wicked
Oh, like,
problem.
oh,
okay, okay.
oh, that is
Wicked.
wicked. Oh, it is
ST.
literally.
Wicked.
Oh, that is
Hard.
literally wicked.
Uh,
Okay.
wicked problem. So very, very hard to address, right? So
Oh, mashallah.
no. Now the bigger what made me want to study that
Hmm.
was the news reports of IPTA students, public university students
Hmm.
who went on hunger and um because they didn't have the money to buy food, right? They had to send money home because their families need it. That's their PTPTN money or scholarship money they have to send home and so forth. So I was just wondering, what about all the Wakaf funds that I've heard of at universities? So I was just doing a comparative study just to see the best practices in the
Okay.
country across. So just the public universities, only 12 of them or more now, only 12 of them. Um, then I studied the history and current management of the Wakaf funds, which
Hmm.
then led me to see what works, what doesn't work.
Ah.
And I did a comparative study to the endowment funds in the US, the Ivy League universities, and the college system, and Oxford and Cambridge. Why are they so good at regenerating revenue for the longevity of the funds that they have?
Hmm.
Because most of them has been around for 200-300 years, right?
Right.
So what I was saying is that we need to be very practical in choosing the topic that you want to research on. So
Hmm.
at the beginning, I want to address education inequality, bro. Never gonna do that.
Oh,
Never gonna
inequality. Oh,
address
the
that.
very broad topic.
Very
Okay.
broad, trying
Wow.
to, save the world and all that. I can't save the world.
Oh, okay.
Somebody, there were so many other better researchers who have tried
Yeah.
to do that. They have won the Nobel Prizes for a reason. They have influenced policies for a reason.
Right.
I just want to pass a paper, get on with it. So, Shami,
What was the quote
choose
again?
Good.
choose wisely.
I value this. I
Yeah.
value this insight.
Uh,
Really. Inshallah,
Yeah,
I'll make it as
yeah,
specific as I can.
yeah,
yeah,
there's a quote that says what? Yesterday I was smart, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am
Tomorrow,
wise, so I will change myself.
yes,
Oh,
yes,
mashallah.
yes, betul, betul.
Inshallah. Hey, by the
Changing
way,
yourself, just get it done with the program.
again. Okay, by the way, I just want to take a step
Thumbs
back.
up.
Okay.
Right.
Like to motivate ourselves and our listeners to start this pursuit back of studying and keeping up this habit of a lifelong learner as opposed to just studying for a very specific reason of so-called getting a job. So there's
Mm,
always this so-called fear of going back to the classroom. And
Yeah.
then, you know, like a lot of us, I think like you also, like the fear of textbooks. Oh man, OMG. And then the exams. And then people always have this, they're confronting this crushing feeling that I'm too old for this. I can't do this. I've left the book so long ago. And then no, this is not for me anymore. How do you confront this? How do you gain the courage to like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through this again?
Yeah. That fear is very normal. That fear can be very overwhelming.
Mm,
And that fear will be a baggage with you as you step into the classroom on the first day. But like I said to Shami earlier, because you're doing it in a group, everybody is coming in with that baggage in them, right?
that's a good point.
Now, yeah.
Mm,
So now, if you look into the design of where this continuing education happens in the university, you will notice that the way that their position is also different. I'm going to give you one example. The University Malaya Center for Continuing Education is not in PJ. It's not in the PJ campus. It is now in Cyberjaya. Purposely situated there because the way they run is catered for adult students, adult learners. And for adult learners, because we have other commitments in life, they are doing their very best to ensure that they give all the support that you needed by way of financial advice, by way of being
mm,
more flexible with the scheduling, by way of being giving you any form of support, extra tutorials and so forth, right? And that happens for a good reason because again, part-time students have commitments to address. They're not
mm,
doing it full time,
mm,
um, and they have that fear,
mm,
right? So program managers do their best to dispel that fear as early as possible, as early as day one, because you feel the connectedness between yourself and the faculty with your class members and so forth. Um, that is one effort to dispel the fear. Now,
mm,
you look into the fear of exams. You look into the fear of having uh, group mates who are just passengers in your assignments. Those are also real, right? So it
right,
depends on the subject that you are trying to do. But you're
right.
now coming as an adult learner. You're no longer that young punk like I was in college who was slacking off, missing out classes and so forth. You choose to be there. That in
Ah,
itself makes a
right,
difference. You
right.
choose to be in that classroom, right?
Mm,
You come with a bit of maturity, you come with a bit more experience, things simply makes more sense. If you believe me in saying that, when you step into classroom, that will slowly and gradually shave off the fear that is haunting you from pursuing study. So the fear is real, the fear is normal, the fear will go away. That's my thought on that.
nice, nice.
Mm.
Okay, now this is a big one. Time management.
Mm,
You're working full time.
yeah.
You're a father of two.
Mm,
Um, how on earth do you manage your time to split among these
yeah.
things and to
Yeah.
juggle all this responsibility? Because committing to one thing is a conscious choice to
Mm,
not do something else.
yeah.
So how do you balance this and how do you actually stick the landing in the end?
Yeah. That's the biggest question that I receive from people who want to do part-time study. Number
Right.
one, communicate. Tell your spouse that you want to register into this program. So they have to be ready that there are
Mm,
moments where you have to attend to exams. There are moments when you have to attend to studies. And these are moments that they will need to take care of the kids.
mm.
So be clear on that at the beginning, right?
So stakeholder
Mm.
management, huh? Make sure you're
Stakeholder management, bro, you got to
okay.
condition them, right?
Nice.
And you got to communicate with your family members because why? There'll be birthday parties that you'll miss. There'll be wedding events that you miss. There'll be family gatherings that you miss. Because more often than not, in my case, from my experience, all of your exams will come on those dates for some reason. Right? You
Okay.
hate it, but that's a reality, right? So communication is number one.
Okay, that's a good
Tell your
one.
bosses, tell your colleagues. There will be moments where you'll have to take exam leaves. There are moments that you have to take study leaves, where you have to attend for your exams, and communication is
Mm,
very key. So tell your family members, tell your colleagues, tell your bosses, so that everybody is aware and you can have a peace of mind and focus when you're doing your study. So that's number one, when time
mm,
management. So that allows you to then dedicate your time and demarcate your time to how you want to do it. Number two, it's always a trade-off, like you said, right? Doing something is missing out on something.
right.
This is when you have to prioritize. this is when you have to gauge the value of activities that you are involved in vis-a-vis the study journey that you're trying to do, right?
Mm.
So prioritizing all the commitments that you have, what needs to take place. Golfing might need to take a back seat. Futsal might need to take a back seat.
Mm.
Hanging out with friends to watch football at the mamak stall might need to have a back seat. That doesn't stop you from watching football. There are many papers that I've written while watching football. And it's about prioritizing and also mixing and matching, like I've just said, doing one, two things like that. On
Okay.
that point, mixing and matching, I try to fit in studying in the idle moments that I have. I'm
Ah.
talking about lunchtime. I'm talking about my drive to work. I'm talking about the train ride to work because some of the lectures are recorded. Now we have them in the form of podcasts where you can hear pre-recorded conversations on certain topics.
Mm.
Some people cannot read while you're on the move, so you don't have to read. You get headaches, right?
Mm.
But it's becoming more and more accessible today. Each programs usually come with an app. Whatever learning management system that you have on web base usually have an app mirror that replicates everything that's online. It's everything in the cloud. You
Mm.
have access to your content. Try to fill in those moments. Faisal, you're doing your gym runs, you're doing your weights. Listen to
Listen,
those
that's
lectures.
nice. Yeah.
Not as cool as the music that you usually hear to pump you up. Not really going to pump you up, but you are doing something more productively while you are addressing others. So
That's
communication
nice.
is number one.
Yeah.
Prioritizing because you're going to have trade-off,
Mm.
and also mixing and matching with few other things that you have so that your study complement your life and vice versa.
Mm. Nice. I want to go to one more part. It's about the knowledge sharing that you're also doing right now. So, committing to studying part time is one thing. Studying part time while having a working and family is one thing. But to share with others, I don't know. That's a totally different muscle, man. So, for example, you have like you're sharing. You have your YouTube channel. At time of writing, you have 1K subscribers, and now you write a
Mm.
book on this
Yeah,
subject, right? Now,
yeah.
writing a book, it's
Mm.
oh man, it's a totally different beast, man. Right? So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, what share us like? What are you trying to achieve, and maybe what for you? The lead up question to this is there a legacy that you want to leave behind in
Right.
what you're trying to pursue in this?
Uh the book began as a list of frequently asked questions because that's what actually happened. People frequently ask questions about studying part-time.
Mm,
How do I choose a program? What format do I go for? What subjects do I choose? Which university and so forth, right?
right.
I find myself having to repeat a few times to the same questions.
Oh, okay.
I compile everything onto a blog spot once
Right.
upon a time, and I just give them a link. So I've categorized
Ah, nice.
on the end-to-end journey from finding a purpose to finding a program, formatting, managing time, completing your thesis, what you do after you graduate. Um, in that FAQ, and that FAQ grew to 3,000 word, 40, 50, 60, 70. And I felt
Wow.
like, hang on a
For real,
minute.
70,000 words?
Yeah.
Wow.
It became about 70 and more, actually more. So I said, you know what? I'm going to send this to publishers to see if anybody wants to publish it, right?
Ah.
So I have zero knowledge on publishing. I just learned that there are two types of publishers. The trade publishers, these are your Simon and Schuster, Penguin
Mm,
Random House, and so
mm,
forth. And then you have the academic publishers. This is UIA Press, Harvard Press, Princeton Press, University Malaya Press, and so forth.
that's where you
So I
got
sent,
yours, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, so I sent to about 20, got rejected by 10, I got ghosted by 7, I got accepted by 3, and all 3 were academic publishers.
Mm,
And one of them were University Malaya Press, who, again, the oldest academic publisher in the country. So I told
Inshallah.
them, let's go ahead and let's get it published. So at the end of last year, we completed the process, and in January of 2023, sorry, in January 2023, it got out. Alhamdulillah, it's now available online, and you can just go to UM Press website or Shopee, or it's in some bookstores as well. Um, my goal is to get the books into the hands of people who might find it helpful. That's all. Yeah.
Mm,
And the legacy that I would like to leave behind is not my legacy, it's their legacy. The self belief
nice.
that people gain from seeing how this guy did it once upon a time, how that is relatable to them and enabled them to do it themselves, would be something that I want to leave behind. So simply, I want to
Mm,
get the book into the hands of those who might need, because I once upon a time did not have those resources. The last book on part-time study that was published, as far as my research on Amazon, when I was doing my market research before I published the book, was published in 1997. It was still using dial-up internet at the time.
wow.
There was still no not much resources on that. So I thought I'm just trying to fit into a gap in the literature, sort of putting something into the market.
That's nice.
So I wrote the book to be as readable as possible.
Mm,
Um, I don't want to intimidate people with concepts and theories on education. I'll leave that to the pros. I just want to
mm,
get the book to be something that's friendly to people who just want to study. They can be professionals, could be housewives, could be retirees, they could be new graduates, whoever they are. I want the book to be readable and easily accessible. So that's the story of the book. The
Sure.
self-belief that people gain from reading it is something that I want to leave behind. And it's not even my uh, role to say that. It's them unearthing that conviction that they are already having in them. Like I said earlier, all the curiosity is within us. It's just a matter of triggering it.
nice. Nice. I read a tip about this when it comes to writing books. I think you uncovered that indirectly. When you have the intention of writing to document your knowledge, as opposed, because sometimes one of the fears that people have when it comes to authoring things or even writing things is this
Right.
imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think this comes from like, who am I to write a book? Who am I to teach people, right? So, but if you come from a point of view, like I'm here to document my experience because I think
Exactly.
people will benefit from it. So I mean, you don't come from a face of authority or, like a teacher. So yeah,
Right.
you help me, might help you. But
My positioning of the book is based on my own experience in undergoing the process. So the examples
ah,
that I give in the process are
nice.
all purely based on my experience, plus the 50 odd plus people who I spoke to
Mm,
in my podcast, right? So this is my 5 minute, my 3 minute elevator pitch for to get people to do part-time study or pursue PhD and so forth. Your PhD dissertation is already complete and is now within yourself. Your
mm,
PhD dissertation, each one of us, is already in there within us. Why do I say that? Because the topic that you choose, because it can be a topic of your expertise already. It could be a topic that you have undergone already. Now it's a matter of just documenting it. So that's my pitch whenever people come to me and they want to do a PhD, they are unsure. I always tell them the reason that you want to pursue a PhD in a particular area, because that dissertation, that 100-word dissertation is already inside you actually, right?
mm,
It's just a matter of unearthing it. I'm not going to go to the part where you have to get the data and do analysis on that. That's the boring
right,
part. But
right,
my pitch again is an elevator pitch for a reason, right?
right.
It's already within you. It's just a matter of putting it out there and documenting it, right?
We all have what it
Um,
takes.
you got what it takes.
Mm,
It's just a matter of putting it out there, structuring it, and putting in the hours.
mm.
I'm simplifying it, of course.
Sure,
But
sure, sure.
because what I say, why do I say is within you? You're choosing a topic because you are interested in it, you're passionate about it. And for professionals, most of the time, if you have 10, 15 years of working experience, you have done it. That's my
Mm,
argument, right?
okay.
Uh, whatever I just said doesn't apply to the core people who go straight into academic right out of college and academia. I wouldn't say it to
That's a
them.
different.
That's
Okay.
the difference. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah, yeah.
it's just for
Fair enough.
part-time people who are professionals who wants to pursue it.
Mm,
Some of them do it based on their job. If it's
right.
based on your job, that dissertation of yours is already inside you. Actually, it's just a matter of unearthing it, documenting it, getting it printed. Of course, I'm skipping a lot of steps there.
Sure, sure.
It's within you. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking about elevator pitch, we'd like to know your one quote. So if there's one phrase, it could be an ayat of the Quran or
Mm.
hadith or quote from anyone at all that motivates you the most. What quote would that be?
It's not a quote, it's a word, which is ikra, which means read,
Iqra, read.
baca.
Mm.
Uh, one word that has so much to unpack, has so much to deconstruct and reconstruct and dive deep in,
Mm.
right? It means a lot in our day-to-day lives, in facing the challenges that we face in navigating life. Reading goes a long way. I love it because it's so simple, but it says so much. Ikra.
Mm. Right. Nice. Nice. Good choice. Okay,
Thanks.
so to end our discussion, so how can our listeners get in touch with you, your work, whatever you do?
Ah, LinkedIn is good. Just look up for my name on LinkedIn. Um, then you search the same name on Twitter. I'm there as well, but I don't update Twitter as much. And you search the same name on Instagram as well. Asrif Yusoff. Those are the three platforms where I'm at. But LinkedIn is where I'm most active because I value the knowledge and insights that are shared on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I value the breadth of network and people of like-minded interests there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just go to LinkedIn, you search my name. Inshallah, we'll get connected there.
Nice. Okay, so any closing words from you?
I'll go back to the quote that I stole from a book earlier. You only need two things in life. Number one is empathy. Number two is curiosity. Empathy allows you to build meaningful relationship with others, and curiosity allows you to be better at what you do. That's it.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so
Okay,
okay, Shami, Ami,
cool.
Inshallah. Thank you so much,
cool.
brother, for the insights. I think I when you put it when you said it the way that you said it, it feels like a different perspective lah. Most of the things that you said,
Alhamdulillah.
by the way. Yeah. So
Alhamdulillah.
I'm just here to absorb everything, and I hope to inshallah I'll get the chance to re-listen to your the early discussions you have had with the brothers, inshallah.
It
So
was a
I'm sure
good
I'll
chat.
get more gems, bismillah,
Yeah,
inshallah.
it
Thank you
was a
so much,
good
brother.
chat. Yeah, thank you so
Alhamdulillah.
much. Yeah, like I said
Alhamdulillah.
earlier, the goal is to get this. I don't have much else to share. I'm only hoping that this experiential punya stories ni are useful to people tu je. Um, how it becomes jariah for us now and the
Mm,
afterlife, that is
yeah.
for Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala to determine lah. But the hope is to sampaikan je.
Yes. Correct. Correct.
Yeah, nice. Ami, anything?
Yeah, I think it's been a very provoking piece of
Ame already
information from
is
you.
thinking of about the MBA next
PhD,
MBA in tech,
PhD, MBA.
Yeah,
Inshallah, inshallah.
he's browsing a
Oh,
course as we
Uh,
speak.
I think so.
inshallah, maybe there's going to be open up more doors, give people a bit more courage, yeah, to take the next
Courage,
That's
step,
my
yeah,
goal.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
That's my goal.
don't hold your back, hold
That's my
yourself
goal.
Yeah.
back too much, yeah. Like
All
sometimes
right.
don't overthink. You do your homework, do the initial an assessment. Just go for it, yeah. Bismillah, go for it.
Yeah, and I like also
Okay, that
Asrif
promo.
highlighted the communication part, right? So
Mm.
that gives the courage part actually. That helps.
Betul, betul. I did a
Yes.
reverse because lepas I siap, my wife pula belajar. So
Oh
I took the kids
yeah.
away pula. So
Oh, really?
it goes
Ah,
both ways lah, insyaAllah.
nice.
Inshallah, inshallah. May
Yeah.
Allah grant you success in this life and in the hereafter, and bless you and your family and the work that you've done.
Yeah,
Betul.
More
so
barakah.
Alhamdulillah, I'd also like to recommend to listeners. Actually, you can go to Asrif's YouTube channel and also the podcast. So like the
Situ
podcast.
all the stories are there.
Yeah. So actually, I went through your podcast episodes, staying the course, navigating the
Mm,
challenges of part-time study.
mm,
So and then I like the way that you break down some of the episodes to some smaller ones. You also have some interviews,
yeah.
Alhamdulillah. And I think the
Mm.
way that the shorter episodes are actually, I believe, chapters in your book, right?
Uh the stories of the learners that I interviewed
Mm.
are featured in every chapter of my book. Meaning
Nice.
the guy who started his PhD at 50, the guy who did 2 degrees later in life, the guy who did it because
Wow.
his mother
Nice.
once said, the guy who
Yeah,
did it while working in a factory. Semua tu
nice.
I pecahkan just to make it relatable. Because kalau tak, you tengok, macam semua macam lepas college, masters, PhD. Nampak macam budak pandai je boleh dapat benda tu. Tak.
Right,
I
right.
really want to
It's
break
it's
that
not
down.
just it's not just the prodigies, right? It's
The guy yang I tak dapat interview was the guy yang buat Grab, buat food panda dekat Kuantan tu. While doing his PhD dekat Universiti
Oh.
Malaysia Pahang. Chemical
wow,
engineer ke chemistry dia belajar. So sebab
wow.
masa dia buat tu I dah macam stop dah buat my podcast. But those kind of stories are just beautiful, man. You just want to
Nice.
capture and
Inspirational, that's right.
put it in the public je. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I'd like to
It's
acknowledge you on that as
inspirational.
well. Yeah, it's very inspirational. I like to I recognize you on that as well because you do reach out to other people who are doing this and you're getting these stories out in the open. And I think
Yeah.
it's nice to see these relatable stories. And I think playing an active role to connect with these other learners also helps give the other side of the courage lah for other people to say, yeah,
Always.
if they
Always.
can do this, why
Macam-macam.
not? I can do this too.
Betul.
Yeah.
Atuk, nenek, single mother, macam-macam cerita lah. So, I really enjoy speaking to them.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. On the last story, I just triggered me as well. Actually, my dad got his
Ah,
PhD when he was 62, just a couple
I
of
should
years ago.
interview your dad,
Mashallah.
man. So, bidang apa? What subject?
It was on education. It was on exporting local expertise in an international market.
Right.
Yeah, very, very niche, very interesting.
So,
And
kalau
specific.
62, lepas pencen lah. Lepas
Yeah.
retire lah.
Yeah, but he's in the
See?
private sector, so he doesn't really retire per se. So he's actually
I
doing it while
see.
working as well. So it's kind of like you.
Ah,
Yeah.
we have a
Dua
very,
anak
very
juga,
close
tapi anak dia
example.
berjanggut lah, bukan macam anak you.
Yeah.
Dah besar.
Now it's, now it's your turn, bro. Faisal, it's your turn, man.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell my mom, in the whole family, I'm the only one who doesn't have DR in the title.
Oh,
So,
iya ke?
yeah.
About time, man. High time. High
High
time.
time.
Ah.
InsyaAllah.
Allah, 2 jam lah kita. Ya Allah, thank you so much.
Wow, itulah Sal. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. It's been great, man. So, yeah, we probably gotta. Okay, so thank you very much, Asrif. It was
Yeah,
fantastic. So, I
yeah.
hope this was as beneficial to the listeners as it was for us. We got a lot of
I
things
mean,
that we can unpack.
Always.
So we
Mhm.
ask, like Shami said, we ask Allah to make dua to bless all of your efforts, and that kita
Amin.
can continue inspiring other lifelong learners along the way. Inshallah.
Wah, amin. Thank
Inshallah.
you so much. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
guys. Good
Okay,
night.
so to end our
Yeah.
conversation, how we end our podcast.
Ah.
So Asrif, complete this sentence.
Ah.
Okay. Wait, I don't want to botch this. Okay. Okay, here we go. The key to barakah is
Sincerity,
sincerity.
because sincerity can be claimed, but can't be proven. Sincerity is not for us to determine, it's for Allah to accept. Which is why I believe
Allah.
barakah. The key to
Well said.
barakah is sincerity. It comes from within for us to hope that it is something that's accepted by Allah.
Nice. Awesome.
Well said. Well said.
Well said. Thank you very much again, Brother Asrif. So, with that, brothers and sisters, that ends our podcast discussion on studying while working and parenting. So, with that, we end our conversation today. Subhanakallahumma hamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.